Now that we're familiar with this drawing environment, we're going to go ahead and activate a 2D sketch, and we're going to create some geometry. So again, I select on my Create 2D Sketch, my planes pop up, and I'm going to draw this from the front view. So I'm going to get that front plane selected. I'm going to get my crosshairs up, and now I'm going to begin to draw some geometry. We'll draw a simple shape here to begin with. Let's start with a rectangle tool. I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle. As I bring my cursor out here now, you can see that it has changed. So I have an active tool, and if you're ever not sure, it will highlight that tool that you have currently activated with this blue rectangle around it. And let's say that I would like a 1" by 2" rectangle. When I'm all said and done with this, I'm going to simply draw a rectangle, paying no attention to the size of it right now. Remember me talking about the dimension tool in the last video? This will allow us to change those numbers. So if I want this dimension of my rectangle to be 2 inches, I'm simply going to select my Smart Dimensioning tool, click on the line segment desired, and then I will get this Edit Dimension box to come up. And in there, I'm simply going to type in 2 for 2 inches. I'm in the English units. This program is all in English units, so I don't need to specify that information for the program. Just put in the number. And we'll click OK. And now you can see I have a rectangle that is 2 inches long. Now I'm going to check this height. My dimension tool is still active. I'm going to select on the opposing line segment, get my dialog box. In this case, I'm going to type in 1. And now it has changed that rectangle to the shape which I desire. To create a 3D object from this, I am going to finish the sketch. You will see it will rotate this into an isometric type view or an offset view of the part. And my sketch is now complete. If I needed to edit this, let's say I wanted this to be a 1.5 by 2" rectangle. I can go back into that sketch, and if you're not sure which sketch is attached to what geometry, as you bring the cursor over that sketch, you can see the geometry is highlighted on your screen. So as you get multiple sketches in here, it is a handy dandy little feature to allow you to see which geometry is attached to that sketch. So let's pretend like we'd like to edit this. I'm going to double click on the sketch, and it will reactivate that sketch. I already have my dimensions in here, so I don't need to reselect this tool. All I need to do is double click on the dimension which I wish to change. I'll get that same dialog box, and let's change that. Let's change that to 1.5 inches. And you can see that it's changed that geometry. We'll go ahead and accept that sketch again, or finish the sketch, and you can see it's offset my part again. And let's add the third dimension onto this. In this case, we're going to do what's called an extrude. Anytime I want to build material onto my geometry, I'm going to choose this extrude command. Let's go ahead and click on that. There are some options in here. One option being extrude, where we're going to add on. Another option being cut, so we can add geometry onto a surface and we can cut it through the part as well, and we'll look at that in a future video. But in this case, we're going to keep it on its default settings because we want to add this third dimension onto our rectangle. It is specified as a distance, so I'm going to tell it how far I would like it to extrude this body out. And let's go ahead and make that 2 inches as well. So I'll type in 2 into my dialog box. This preview command should be clicked, and you can see it is displaying what that extrude command is going to do to my rectangle. That's what I desire. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, or the green check mark down here, and you can see now my 2D sketch has become a 3D object. If I wanted to do that out of a circle, it would be the same darn procedure. I would draw my circle, I would change my geometry to the desired dimensions, accept my sketch, and extrude that out. If I want to add geometry onto a given shape, I always need to start with 2D geometry. So again, I'm going to select Sketch, and in this case I can select any surface of this block which I've created to sketch upon. Let's sketch on the top of the box here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on the top of the box, and you can see it's highlighted that geometry and has now put it so that it is facing me. I'm going to select the rectangle tool. Well, let's select the circle tool for this one, and I'm going to draw a circle in any old place on here. I'm going to dimension that circle, and let's change that to a 1-inch diameter. Now what if I want this in the exact center? Well, there are some tools to do that. The easiest way to move something is to constrain it, which means to assign a dimension that is a distance away from a known point, like an edge or a point where two lines intersect, etc. So to dimension this in the center, I'm going to click from the center line of my circle to the outside edge of my shape. And if you remember, this is a 2-inch long block, so half of that would be 1. I'm going to type in 1 into my dimension box, and you can see it has now shifted it to the center point from left to right. If we look from top to bottom, however, we've got the same problem going on where it's not exactly in the center. So I'm going to select my center point again, select the opposite outside edge, and I'll change this to 1 as well. Now that I have this part centered, or this geometry centered on the top of the cube, I have it to the diameter which I am after. I'm going to finish the sketch. And now we're ready to add some geometry on, or a third dimension onto that shape. So I'm going to select extrude. I'm going to click on, now you do need to be careful when you do this. You can notice right now I have the outside selected, and if I click that, I get a very different shape. What I want to select is this inside geometry. So I'm going to make sure that circle gets highlighted versus that outer material. So do pay attention to where your cursor is when you click. So we'll select on that inner circle, and let's extrude this to a distance of 1.5 inches. We'll go ahead and click OK. So those are two simple extrude commands. As mentioned earlier, we can also do an extrude cut. So let's put another circle through the center here and cut a through hole all the way through our part. We're going to select a 2D sketch again. This time we want to draw on the top of the circle. I'm going to select that center point, and you can see my green dot appears, so I'm snapped to that center. I'm going to draw my circle out, and let's say we want a wall thickness on this part to be 0.075. We'll accept our sketch here. We'll go back to that extrude command, and this time instead of adding material on, I want to cut material away. So I'm going to select this secondary icon here, the one right in the middle. And you can see now that it is selected, it is popping up with that cut dialog box. I want to cut away the inside circle, so again pay attention to where your geometry is highlighting. We'll select that inner circle, and I could specify a distance. If it was a blind hole, meaning it doesn't go all the way through the part, I could set that distance, or I can go all the way through. So I could do that by mathematically figuring out the height of this part, or I can say I would like that to be cut through all geometry. So I'm going to select all, I'm going to select OK, and now you can see we have a hole that goes through the center of our object. There is basic extrude and extrude cut commands.